Draupadi is the third book of the Sati series. Sati series is the five-book series which is being conceptualized on Panchkanya. Panchkanya are Ahalya, Kunti, Draupadi, Mandodari, and Tara. And the fun of the series is that these are five extremely liberated women with a hold in the lives of their own and also that of others. And Panchkanya, the word has been translated as five virgins by extremely renowned scholars. Now, when I look at Panchkanya, and there is a sloka on Panchkanya, which translates into something like if you recite the name of Panchkanya, then you gain a lot of spiritual empowerment and you feel spiritually and otherwise active and more in control. This particular sloka got me really moving that why are these Panchkanya so important that if we recite their names regularly, we are in control, women, and it is not said that only the women will be in control. It is just said that if you recite, you will be in control. So I assume that it is meant for both men and women. Uh, Now, when I look at Panchkanya, these five women, and Panchkanya, the term which is translated as five virgins, interestingly, all these five women have had more than one partner in their life. Which brings me again to the fact that in ancient texts, women's purity had nothing to do with the purity of her body, or that so called virginity was not restricted to the body or a portion of the body of the woman. It had a bigger meaning. And the bigger meaning is obviously the untouchable part of her brain and how uh, specific towards or how focused a woman can be with respect to whatever she has come to the earth for, to her goals. So, if I try to explain Panchkanya in today's context, Panchkanya refers to those women who were not derailed by the pressure or focus of others and were capable of remaining untouched by the politics thrown at them by others. Draupadi. She was a homemaker. She loved creating a home. She loved preserving a home. And I say this from many contexts. If you see the iconography that is attached to Draupadi are things like Draupadi's cooking pot. The food that she creates doesn't ever exhaust. Her hospitality was very famous. Uh, she created a home wherever she went, in the forest or in Hastinapur or in Indraprastha. She just created that success. Uh, she was a very successful homemaker. Uh, Even the palace of Indraprastha, that is said to have been created by the divine architect Maya. Why will that destiny conspire Indraprastha in Draupadi's life? You see, Indraprastha is a magical palace, right? And that magical palace creates something beautiful, something enchanting for the inhabitants and for the visitors. I see that as Draupadi's magical homemaking skills, which has been used by the divine architect because it is the identity of the people staying in a house which shapes a house. So it was Draupadi was already well known for her hospitality, and Draupadi goes on creating, and her success keeps on multiplying. And at some point of time, people felt threatened by that success because her success not only traveled far and wide, but it was also creating allies with such kind of people who were not supposed to have anything to do with Draupadi. For example, Bhishma. Bhishma was supposed to be a friend to the throne. He was supposed to serve the throne. But Draupadi's friendship, and there is evidence of Draupadi's uh, beautiful relationship with Bhishma, obviously it threatened many of those who didn't have the capability to govern love but felt entitled to the love that should come from any corner of the family, and they wanted that love for themselves. They wanted that uh, adulation for themselves. So the next step was, obviously there was jealousy not only for Draupadi but also her husbands, who were extremely capable and more capable than the Kaurav. They may not defeat the Pandav at war. It will be easier to molest Draupadi. There are a few things that I notice in Draupadi's story. One was Draupadi refused to accept that it was her molestation, which is something that the present generation should learn from and adapt in every which way possible. For Draupadi, it was the molestation of Hastinapur court where the entire act took place. The court of law, which is supposed to provide justice, the same place was used for a heinous crime. So, in my book, one of the very strong narratives that I have placed is Draupadi always says that it was the molestation of Hastinapur court. She never says it was my molestation. Now, when the leadership conducts this kind of a crime inside a court, they don't just, the crime doesn't restrict only to the criminals. It reflects or it spreads out to every individual because they are the leaders. They are not individuals, they are leaders and they represent a country. So every person residing in the country gets colored by the crime of the leadership. And that was Draupadi's anger, that act like that has named an entire country and created a different identity for the entire country and all the people residing there. Then comes something that many people talk about and their opinions are divided. They discuss whether Draupadi wanted war. As an individual, Draupadi is entitled to seek revenge. But what makes her different is the fact that she's a queen. She cannot have, she cannot fight a personal war with the sword and get many people killed as a queen. Because in the personal space that she has, she knows that Arjun will be able to protect himself and also his brothers. But when there is a war, there will be many such people whom Arjun will not be able to protect. What about them? That will always be the dilemma of the queen. It was important for Draupadi to deal with that conflict, stay away from pushing that particular war event herself, and wait for the right moment when the war becomes inevitable. When Kaurav chose war, Draupadi gave everything to that war to make it happen and succeed, simply because it was important to create a benchmark for those who are living or will live in future to know what happens when someone crosses that border which distinguishes between simple jealousy and crime. Towards the end of the book, there is a long conversation that Draupadi has with Indra. That is where Indra tells her that since this kind of an event happened with the queen, it has got into the discussion mode. It is being discussed by people far and wide. The same thing has happened with many other women. They have not been discussed because it has been explained that things like this happen when you are, chasing some big goal and trying to make something big happen. These are small things, crimes against women. These are the small sacrifices that happen. That is an important realization for Draupadi too. That Draupadi was very dear to Bhishma, but she has to accept that Bhishma has done something wrong for which he has not been penalized yet. People don't know. Bhishma himself accepts it because Draupadi brings him into that situation. Draupadi here just forces Bhishma to go back to the memories of that young, innocent child. And as Devavrat, when Devavrat looks at Bhishma's life, he figures and he kinds of gets to see the kind of criminal activities that has been done by him in the pretext of royal uh, duties. The way Draupadi was treated in the royal court becomes a talk of discussion among a bigger crowd simply because she was a queen. And many other women who may have mistreated were never spoken about or not known because they were not queens. So that is where the entire design shapes up and things happen one after the other, which proceeds towards the culmination of the Battle of Kurukshetra, which is supposed to be the Battle of Dharma. And most importantly, I think, I don't know why nobody before me noticed this, or maybe they noticed and they didn't dare to think about it, is the role of Krishna. Krishna is the Antaratma. That is where what every text, every literature tells you, every religious literature tells you that Krishna is the Antaratma, the inner God. Krishna comes here as Draupadi's Antaratma, the inner voice, the divine wisdom. And since Krishna is the divine wisdom, it means that in a situation where Draupadi is alone, and complete adverse situation, Draupadi is left all alone, only with Krishna, which is her divine intelligence, to fend for herself. It is not a male god protecting a woman. I don't know why nobody before me has pointed this out. If this was done before, I would have grown up with better authority of which is bestowed to me by my culture, by my religion, by my gender. I wouldn't have grown up apologetically when I was growing up. I mean, I will just end with this that these stories are not gender specific, rather, they're gender agnostic. Uh, Even the stories of Panchkanya. You see, the Kaurav wanted to strip Draupadi of the robe of success and prove that Draupadi is not worth the success that is being attributed to her. They wanted to humiliate her. Today, if you look at the world, you see 1,000 Dushasan standing up and saying that Shah Rukh Khan is not deserving of the success. Whatever he is doing, they are trying to strip him of that look of success. And what is giving him that protective sheen that can never be crossed? That is his years of hard work, the person that he is, the identity that he has created for himself, his inner intelligence, Krishna. These That is the reason these stories can never be dated, and you find the regeneration of these stories happening year after year, generation after generation. And if you have your eyes open, you will be able to trace them. And it is not that Draupadi's story is important, or Kunti's story is important, or Ahilya's story is important only in women's life. Everybody faces it. Everybody is an Ahalya. Everybody is a Kunti. Draupadi, definitely, each of us are. Because whatever level of success we all have achieved, we must have that moment when we felt that these are our own people, then how can they be so cruel towards us? And how can they be so negligent towards our hard earned success? So we all are Draupadi in our own little worlds.